Guys know, about a month ago, a little over a month ago, I had to make the heartbreaking decision to put Nifty down, one of my linehead rabbits, and ever since I've been scrambling. I've been trying to pull strings. I've been breaking down every barrier in my way, trying to find Nito another rabbit, because that's all Nito knows. Him and Nifty were together, from day one. They were litter mates, and they were together for 7 years, side by side, 24/7, every single day, and then it breaks my heart to have, Nito have Nifty ripped apart, from him and ripped out of his life. That is heartbreaking as putting Nifty down was. What broke my heart even more was knowing that I was separating them. They were, man, you know how there are things in life or people in life you just know that you can't live without? For those two rabbits, they were that for each other. I mean, they were that tight, they were that close. They had a really special bond. Man, and it's hard for me to even fathom, even if I do bring another rabbit into the picture, them having as neat of a bond as Nifty and Nito had, so but at this point it's not about that. It's not about trying to replace Nifty by any means, because there is no replacing an actual litter mate and an actual lifelong partner, and it's not about trying to replicate what I had with Nifty and Nito. It's about turning that page. As hard as that is, it's about turning that page and trying to bridge that gap between Nito having Nifty every day and Nito having no partner right now. That's, he needs it. He needs it. Rabbits are very social animals, and human interaction for rabbits is better than nothing, but it doesn't hold a candle to rabbit and rabbit interaction. So he definitely needs that companionship. It's been a month. Each and every day I'm so inspired by this rabbit, man. He's goddamn. He's strong. It's one of these things where, like, it's hard to gauge how a rabbit's coping with something, because the way they're wired, they hide their feelings, their emotions, all the time, because out in the wild they're prey for everybody. And anytime you look vulnerable, well, guess what? You're an easy target, and predators are going to single you out. So rabbits have it down to a science how to hide, what they're feeling, whether they're sick, anything. So they're just by nature and how they're wired, they're experts at that. So the reason I say this is because Nito appears to no longer be sad about losing Nifty. He does appear to be, bored and a bit lonely, but he could still be very sad. It's just that they know how to mask it so well that it's really hard to notice sometimes, But yeah, it's been a struggle, trying to arrange something with these different adoption agencies. I thought I had something good going with this Minnesota Rabbit Companion Society, I think is what they're called. They actually host the happy hours, and I'm grateful for those, because what a neat opportunity for a bunch of rabbits to come together in the same room and interact with each other, right, for an hour or two. I mean, it's just, I'm grateful for it, although it's only once a week or once every 2 weeks, not nearly enough to really give Nito the kind of stimulation he needs, to really help him recover from this. And to be honest with you, I don't know if he'll ever fully recover. That's an emptiness in your heart that you probably can't fill back up, But yeah, this Minnesota Companion Rabbit Society, they're an adoption agency, so they have a lot of rabbits up for adoption, and I just thought, wow, this is great. Big variety, old rabbits, young rabbits, middle-aged rabbits, all across the board. Wide variety, huge selection to choose from. I thought, wow, this is great. This is perfect. Then I reach out to them, and all of a sudden I'm getting emails with 20 questions thrown my way, and they're all like really deep questions. Like they want to know in depth everything about the surviving rabbit I have and what his life has been like, what kind of environment he's lived in, what kind of cage, the measurements, the food, you know, what kind of surgeries he's had, what kind of health condition he's in, you know, what kind of supplies do I have for him. And, you know, once you answer those 20 questions in depth, you send it back, then all of a sudden 20 more questions come. And then they want to know, you know, why do I think I would be a good person to adopt one of the rabbits? You know, and then like they want to know what kind of personal characteristics I have that would make me a good candidate for adoption. And then they want to know, you know, how would I go about the bonding process? Do I have 2 separate rooms I could keep them in until they're fully bonded? You know, what do I have neutral territory for them to do the bonding process in? I mean, everything, all sorts of stuff. 20 questions here, 20 questions there, and man, I'll tell you what, I got so exhausted. And just when you think you're done answering the questions, another 20, 30 questions come in, and they want to know in depth. It's not like if you just give like a basic general answer, they'll write you back and say that's not good enough. They need more. They need you to be more detailed. And it got to a point where I just said, you know what? I admire the fact that you guys are so selective and so invasive, you know, in selecting who can adopt the rabbits you guys have. But for goodness sakes, man, it was just a turnoff. I mean, plain and simple, it was a turnoff, and it was stressful. Like, you're already going through the stress of just having lost a rabbit. You're already going through the stress of seeing your survivor rabbit heartbroken and in distress, and you're stressed because you're going through it too, and now you're stressing out because you're trying to pull strings. You're trying to bring everything together and you know, get something arranged where you can get another rabbit that would click with your rabbit. And I just felt like this place was just making it way too difficult, way more complicated than it had to be. Like I said, I admire the fact that they're as selective, you know, and just as, I don't know, dare I say hard-headed as they are. But, you know, it's just like, you know what, they wanted too much. They asked for too much. I guess that's better than the alternative, you know, because they truly care about these rabbits. They want to know if these rabbits are going to households that are prepared for rabbits. So like I said, man, I admire that. I admire that, and I actually appreciate that approach, because there are a lot of places out there that that just want to get rid of the animals they have and make that money. You know, they just want to get rid of the animals they have, and they don't really care what kind of environment they're going to be thrown into. So yeah, that part of Minnesota Rabbit Companion Society I do appreciate and I do admire. Tip my hat to those guys in that regards. But for me personally, I can handle some questions, no problem. But when it's, you know, they're just digging and digging and digging and digging and digging, and once you've revealed everything, given them all the answers they want, all the answers they need, they start digging again, digging. Before you know it, you're exhausted. You're like, what more can I tell these people, man? I've told them everything they've asked for, and it's still not enough. And they keep bombarding me with questions, and then it just turns you off. It's like, you know what? No, I can't. This is crazy, you know. And then you start to understand that the process drags out, and it would take a good month, maybe even 2 months, before you get a rabbit. And it's like, who has that time? When they have a grieving rabbit, right? And the only life this rabbit's ever known is being with another rabbit. Who has a month or two, you know, and all these strings to pull and all this BS to go through? And in my mind, I didn't have a month. I didn't have 2 months. You know, granted, it's been a month, but if I had stuck with this Minnesota Companion Rabbit Society and decided, okay, they're the agency I'm going to go through, I wouldn't have a rabbit for another 2 weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and that's just too long in my opinion. But with the way things are going now, I'm having a hell of a time finding a rabbit through any adoption agency in Minnesota that fits what I'm looking for. So yeah, there's a good chance it may take me another month to land a rabbit that would fit Nito well, you know. It's a shitty situation. It's a really bummer situation because, you know, Nito deserves better. You know, he deserves a rabbit quick. But what more can I do? I mean, I've been jumping over hurdles left and right, pulling every string I can find. You know, trying to get something in order, but it's not that easy. You know, you could go out to a local pet store and buy a rabbit, bring it home, and hope they click. But that's stupid. That's stupidity at its most extreme measure. You know what I mean? Because guess what? You buy a rabbit, you bring it home, they don't click. Now what have you done? Now you've brought a new rabbit into your house, and you've made the survivor rabbit, who, let me remind you, that's what this is all about. This is all about Nito now. So now you brought in a brand new rabbit, a stranger, into Nito's environment, and all of a sudden you find out they don't get along. So now Nito's not only lonely, bored, but now he's unhappy, and he's irritated, and he's a bit feeling disrespected because I brought somebody into his environment that he didn't approve of. It's just a bad situation. You don't go out and buy a rabbit in hopes that they'll click with the rabbit you have at home. That's just not how you do it. And so I'm grateful that these adoption agencies have things called speed dates, where you bring your rabbit to these different places, and they put you in a room, right? And you're able to put your rabbit with these other rabbits and just see how they interact and if they click. Because could you imagine if they didn't have that as an option? You'd be forced to buy rabbits, bring them home, find out if they connect, and then decide if you're going to keep them, you know? And I'd say it's a 50-50 chance that it'll work out or it won't work out. You know, so that's definitely the right approach. I mean, you want to know that these rabbits click, that they have a bit of chemistry pretty much right off the bat, and that it's going to be a peaceful, happy situation as opposed to a miserable, hostile fucking battlefield, you know? So, yeah, so that's what it's coming down to now. I'm having a heck of a time trying to find a senior rabbit. You know, there's a lot of young rabbits. There's countless young and even countless adult rabbits out there. So I think by the time rabbits are 1 or 2, they're considered adults, right? And by the time they're like 6 or something, they're considered senior. So Nito's considered a senior at 7 years old, and they recommend and they suggest finding a rabbit around the same age, around 7 years old. So that's what I'm looking for. You know, within 1 or 2 years would be okay. And they say try to go the female route, opposite genders, just because then you'll have less of an issue with, you know, one of the rabbits trying to establish dominance. You know, and I actually have a little story for you guys. So a couple weeks ago, I was at one of the happy hours, and I saw a rabbit that was 7 years old. It was a male rabbit. It was at the Golden Valley location. A male rabbit, 7 years old, and I said, hey, is there any way we can arrange to get a side room and see if my rabbit and this one click? You know, I was just curious. We went into a side room, and right off the bat, this rabbit at the Golden Valley Humane Society was aggressive right off the bat. You know, trying to mount Nito, chase him around, even nipped his back, bit him once. You know, did stop and groom him for a little bit occasionally, but for the majority of the 10 or 15 minutes in that room, I watched this other rabbit pretty much try to bully Nito around, and that's not a situation I'm going to put Nito in. It's just not. And Nito's so mellow, and he's so calm, and he's so easygoing. I mean, he just kind of shrugged it off. He didn't try to retaliate. He didn't try to snip back at him. You know, he just kind of hopped away and tried to avoid him and just do his own thing. Just keep to himself. That's what kind of rabbit Nito is. You know, he's in his own little world, and he's just as pleasant as can be. And yeah, not a mean bone in that rabbit's body. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I have had one experience with that speed dating. It didn't go well, but it certainly won't be the last one. But yeah, it's been rough. It's been pretty disappointing, you know, trying to find senior age rabbits, you know, to pursue, to look into. Like I said, there's countless young rabbits and adult rabbits, but senior rabbits, you're talking slim to none in terms of what's available out there and what, you know, it's, man, it's been frustrating, you guys. That's the word I'm looking for, frustrating. It's been very frustrating, but you guys know me, man. I'm, you know, if I'm focused on something, I'm a man on a mission. I'll figure out a way to get it done. So that's kind of where my head's at right now. Just nose to the grindstone. Keep going. You know, keep blasting through these different little obstacles of adversity, and soon enough, I'll have Nito, another friend.